As you go through this process of preparing your credit, I would recommend being as organized as possible. And this is especially true if you have multiple items that you're trying to correct or improve. In fact, I recommend that you guys make notes on everything, including the dates, what you requested, who you spoke with, what the response was, and it'll enable you to, keep track of everything. And it'll be quite important, further down the line. So, for instance, if you save too much information, there's really no harm in that. But you may need to go back and find some notes on a conversation that you may have had with somebody who made a promise that something was going to be done on your credit report, and you have that negative item removed, and it didn't happen. And it's really frustrating if you're expecting something to happen and you don't have the time it was written down, and who you spoke to, or anything else about it. You're missing key information. You may just have to go back to square one and start all over again, and you have nothing to go on or continue with. So I really recommend saving as much information as possible, especially when you're working with creditors. Right, we're going to talk a little bit later about working with credit bureaus, but we're also going to talk about working with credit bureaus as well. It's very straightforward. Most of it is done online. And when you're working with creditors, you might be working with them over the phone or on email, different types of communication. So, and with that, there's a lot more room for conversations going back and forth. So it's really important to have a record of what they say, right? Now, here's an example of what I do. As you can see, it's basically a Word document where you can use Excel sheet, spreadsheet, or a blank piece of paper to keep track. It really doesn't matter what you use, as long as you're doing it, As you can see, I have a column and the actions that I'm taking, and I'm going to use my my mouse to show you guys. I just let them know if the information was correct or not, and when it was done, and so forth, right? And you're going to want to make your own sort of columns, depending on your particular issues and what you think is important for you to track. Now, across the top row, I have the various things that I'm disputing. So, for instance, we have a Capital One card by Experian, which we saw earlier. Then we have a Blue Cross unpaid medical bill, right, which is on Experian as well. So first thing we want to do is the dispute date. This is the start of the whole process. When did we actually first contact the credit bureaus and get it rolling? And I think they're going to have 30 days to respond to me on this dispute date. And then we're going to go all of this again within the course in a lot more detail as you move through. But right now, I just want to give you an idea of how to keep track stuff moving forward, right? So you know what to do with all this information as it's accumulating, right? So you have a dispute date. That's when we started. And from that dispute date was, that was when the information was corrected on your report. Did it work? Or on the Capital One, it did work. And it was successful. So that's great news. However, on the Blue Cross, the medical bill, the dispute with the credit bureaus, it did not work, and they notified us and about 3 weeks later that they were going to change it. So if they didn't correct it, what was the explanation for that? And for Blue Cross, they provided documentation that the debt was still owed. So the debt was still owed, and that was kind of what we were asking. And now we need to go to Plan 2 and start another dispute with the credit bureaus and Blue Cross, right? So we have the second dispute data that we have, and we'll find that the credit bureaus are not going to affect us, right, if we start to dispute it within the creditors themselves, right? We're going to send a certified letter to Blue Cross, ask for a payment plan supplement, right, and the information will be corrected, right, and Blue Cross should accept the offer, right, paying at $45 monthly, and they will remove that immediately from our credit report. and that's a success, right? So that's how we did it, and of course we would keep track of all of that and make sure that that negative information actually was removed. And again, we're going to be talking about that, all of that stuff in great detail later. But for now, I just wanted you guys to have a general guideline, something you could do right now, something you could keep track of right now when it comes to reporting your credit. And I want you guys to keep following up on it, okay? So that is our course about staying organized, you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next class. All right.